spend time on the internet, maybe in your daily perusings of your Reddits and your Tumblrs, you might come across certain images like maybe the entire hangar deck of the Battlestar Galactica done in Lego. Or maybe the last March of the Ents from The Lord of the Rings done entirely in Lego. Or something along the lines of, well, I mean, this is just stupid. I mean, who builds an entire aircraft carrier for Lego people? Like, what are you going to defend against? Anyways, the thing that all these images have in common, aside from the fact that they're all made in Lego, they're all made by adults. They're not made by kids. In many cases, they are made by people I know that are friends of mine. In certain cases, they're even made by me. This is by far not my best work, but I wanted to bring it up because I made it about, back in 2008, about the time the game came out. About a day later, a friend of mine named Andrew put it up on his blog called The Brothers Brick. Brothers Brick is actually a pretty well-read blog. It was eventually filtered out onto Boing Boing, Kotaku, etc. Eventually, the view count on Flickr went up into the hundreds of thousands. About half of that came on the day about a month later when somebody posted it to the top page of Dig. It actually made it all the way to the top of the ladder, something like 2,800 hits. Everybody remember Dig? Like, does anybody go there anymore? And it's interesting because even though this was 4 years ago, back in 2008, just a few months ago, I saw it made the same image, made it all the way to the top of Reddit again. So having been through this process, I feel like I have kind of a good feel. If you want to achieve fame on the internet, here's a couple of guidelines which might help you. One, combine two things that nerds really fucking like. And secondly, it helps if you know a guy with a blog that has readership in the millions. So, of course, there's two sides to every coin. There are a few consequences of fame, as most famous people know. Most of the comments posted about these images could be distilled down into one of three things. The first one, this guy is awesome. I'm totally cool with that. It's true, I know. The second one, I'm an independent game developer, so I find it kind of funny. The third one I also find kind of hilarious. I mean, honestly, ladies, let's be honest here. How many of you could walk into this bedroom and not want to get busy? I'm talking about with the Lego. This is my private collection, most of it, anyways. I want to point out a couple things, like hanging up on the wall here. This is let me zoom in on that. This is kind of a living record of my career as an adult builder. Pretty much any event that I've been to, etc. And then this is the living room, the rest of the collection, yes, in the display case. So, hello, good evening. My name is Brendan Mauro, and I'm an Afol, or as some of my friends like to pronounce it, Afol. What is an Afol? An Afol is an adult fan of Lego, a little subset of nerds that likes their little plastic bricks almost as much as they like their acronyms. Yes, there's acronyms in my talk, too. You could even drink with them if you want. For example, you could be a T-Fol, a K-Fol. You could be an NLSO. You could be a member of a LUG, a Lego users group. There are hundreds of these worldwide. Many of them are regional. Here's a few of our West Coast LUGs. Some of them are just based around a common idea or a common person or theme. There's a few more of my favorite acronyms. This is a BURP. It stands for Big Ugly Rock Piece. And to distinguish it from the other BURP, this is a LURP, a lesser ugly rock piece. And then to round everything out, we have the SLURP, the slightly lesser ugly rock piece. POOP stands for part of other parts. It's used to vent Lego nerds' frustration when Lego decides to put out a new piece that is one solid mold but could easily be assembled from smaller, more useful parts that could have been sold in those sets. But no. And SNOT. SNOT stands for studs not on top. This is This is an important one. Not only does it refer to these kind of bricks that have dual usage, the studs face in different directions, etc. It also kind of refers to a more advanced building technique that makes use of these bricks. You can use them for a lot of different things. And for example, this arch brick, it only comes in a configuration with the arch cut out of the bottom. But if you were making a model and you wanted to make like maybe a circular structure on the side of the model using arches, and you would use snot techniques to kind of reconfigure that within your model. Another example is this window piece. It's always taller than it is wider, but if you wanted a wide window, like if you're making a train car or something, then using snot, you can turn things sideways, et cetera, et cetera. Here's a basic example of the kind of things that snot will let you do. These letters in this confined space, they couldn't be done with vertical bricks, but turning everything sideways, you're able to do things like this. On a more advanced level, a really good builder can pretty much achieve any shape that he wants using snot techniques, because you can face the studs whatever way you want, use bricks however. Here's an extreme example. Excuse me 1 minute. So anyways, what sort of things do you do as a Lego fan? Well, one thing, you could go to any of 100 or so Lego conventions in the world. Here's just a quick sampling of a few. What do you do at conventions? Well, you can play games and have competitions. Here in the upper left, this is a relay speed build where a set is taken apart and the parts are scattered around a room, and as a team, you compete with every other team in the room to see who can assemble the set the fastest. This is a blind build. Kind of obvious from the name what you do. You have to build a set without looking at it. A big draw of conventions is the number of vendors who show up, bringing all kinds of things from vintage sets to custom minifigures and accessories. And Lego tends to be pretty friendly if you tell them you want to throw a giant weekend convention just to support their product. So they tend to give you nice discounts at the local Lego store when you go to a convention. But the biggest draw of going to a convention is putting your models on display. Not necessarily just in an individual sense, but there's a lot of collaboration that goes on in conventions. This on the left, this is a big castle display that I did with about 10 other builders at Brickfest 2007. It ended up being 8 feet wide by 40 feet long in the end. This here was put on at Bricks by the Bay 2011 by about 10 guys from Southern California. It's entirely animated and lit up. Ended up winning Best of Show at the convention. And at least for one day of every convention, it opens up to the public. And that gives you a great opportunity to sit down and show off to all the thousands of kids and parents who come through, answer questions. Actually, it's kind of easy because you really only have to answer 3 questions. It's not available as a set, and yes. So, anyways. I don't know how that got in there. So, some other things you might do as a Lego fan. Well, you might make use of one of the completely fan-maintained Lego databases online that contain every single brick that the company has ever made, which is actually quite a few. Not only that, it'll tell you things like how many sets contain that brick, or what colors it was ever produced in, and how many sets that color appears in. Gives you details like the years that the sets were produced. You can even look at every other brick that was in that set. And in case you really need a certain part, you can check and see if any other adult builders are looking to get rid of any, and how much they're willing to look to get rid of them for. You might also use some of the entirely fan-built Lego virtual modeling software. Some of these have been in existence since the late 90s, 96, 97, and there's a lot of crossover between geeks and engineers and Lego builders. In fact, I hesitate to say invented, but image sharing, online image sharing was actually something the Lego users were doing several years before things like Flickr and Image Shack came out. There was a site called Brickshelf, which was still exists, entirely dedicated to sharing pictures of your Lego models. You might find new opportunities opening up, like, say, a local TV show needs to build a 7-foot ball of solid Lego in order to disprove some YouTube users. You might be called upon to lend your skills. And you will inevitably find yourself falling into these habits, such as telling people they're wrong when they try and pluralize Lego. Just, random things that come with every hobby. All while maintaining just kind of a fervent, almost fanatical devotion to the company that you support. And this is kind of ironic. I may be blaspheming to my fellow Lego nerds by going into this, but let's go back in history a little bit to Billund, Denmark in 1932, when a guy by the name of Ole Kirk Christensen decided to form a company to make toys. And he decided to name the company after the Danish words for play well. So here's Ole in his workshop, and for about 15 years, he made a living for himself and the people he employed making wooden toys. And it was in 1947. Christensen decided to make a bold move and spend more than his last 2 years in profits, and he bought a British plastic injection molding machine. It was the first injection molding plastic machine in Denmark. Along with this plastic machine, the British company sent along some examples of things that someone could make with the machine, one of which was a British toy called Kiddicraft self-locking building bricks. And they looked like this. Just a series of bricks that you could stack one on top of the other, and they kind of fit together, and some windows and doors that you could fit between them. So Christensen, in order to test out his new machine, decided, well, why don't I just copy them exactly? And he produced a box called the Lego brand Automatic Building Bricks. And as you can see, they are pretty much exactly the same. In fact, if you take a closer look, all that Christensen really changed was a little bit of the shape of the studs and the name printed on the inside of the Legos. But I have to stop here and prostrate. Prostrate was not the word I was looking for. Postulate. Prostrate's for the next talk. So Kiddicraft had been in existence for several years before Christensen started doing this. So why is it that today we know the name Lego, but we don't know the name Kiddicraft? And part of the reason, there's a number of reasons, but part of the reasons is Christensen had a motto that was the company motto, and that motto was, only the best is good enough. And I'm staying on this picture for a minute to demonstrate. There is some difference between these bricks. If you'll notice, these bricks look a lot cleaner. The edges are a lot straighter, the corners are straighter. On the inside of the Kiddicraft brick, there's a little bit of flashing. That's when plastic is molded, sometimes if it leaks out of the mold a little bit. And none of that kind of exists on the Lego bricks. So anyways, Christensen produced automatic binding bricks for many years. Improved his company, improved the process, did pretty well, mostly out of a market skill of branding and marketing. But there wasn't really much innovation in the company until around 1958, when Christensen's son took a crack at redesigning the brick a little bit. You see, all the bricks were hollow, which caused certain problems structurally. You could never really have a brick that overhung another brick because there wasn't much support other than the grip of the studs on the side of the brick. And so his son Godfred decided to add these tubes to the middle of the brick. And this was the first real innovation, was that not only did the tubes provide support for an overhanging brick, but they also added more contact points to bind with the studs and make a stronger bind when two bricks were put together. And this allowed Lego to put out their first patent. And this is kind of what started to set them apart from their competitors. There were plenty of other companies at the time making plastic bricks for building purposes, but finally they had something unique. And so they took this concept and they ran with it, and for many more years they continued to add to the product line and expand. Different types of bricks started to come out, smaller bricks, curved bricks, flat bricks. And then 1978, they put out the patent for the minifigure, and I'm not even going to bother talking past that because everybody knows what happens. We lived it. So, one last thing I want to touch on. This is kind of another reason that I feel that Lego has been successful. There's this inherent, well, if you look at a Lego brick, if you compare the gap between the stud and the edge of the wall, it's obviously the same there, but it's actually the exact same height as one stud. And this is actually when, this is some of the genius that was put into the design of Lego back in the day, was that this kind of is used as a golden rectangle when you look at Legos. The width of a stud is exactly 3 times the height of that brick. The height is exactly 6 times. The width is exactly 10 times. When Godfred added the tubes, he made sure that the inside of the tubes retained this multiple of kind of the golden unit. And as Lego produced more and more parts, they made sure that every single part kind of conformed to these specifics. And this meant that when you think about other construction toys like K'NEX or Tinker Toys, every part has a very distinct purpose. It either connects into this slot here or this structural piece here or something. But the thing is, since every piece is built to these specifications, there's multiple ways that you can use it. And people keep coming up with new ways to use them. And every time new parts are produced and they're made to these specifications, you come up with new ways to use them. The snot techniques that I was talking about earlier is all based on this theory based on this design that, since every gap, every slot is in these Lego golden unit, you can reconfigure things in numerous ways. And I think that this is one of the biggest draws to Lego as a toy. Even the minifigure, the hand of the minifigure, the inside is 2 of these units and the outside is 3 of these units, which means that you can have, you can insert anything that conforms to those units into the hand of the minifig, and you can also attach it to the top because it's the same width as a stud. And I think this, combined with what I said earlier about the dedication to quality, is why Lego is the 3rd largest toy seller in the world, and they produce 1 product line, just Legos. And like I said, that combined with Christensen's motto that only the best is good enough. If you think about it, I'm sure many people here have had a Lego set before and opened it up, and I doubt anyone in this room has ever opened a set and found a brick that didn't fit with every other brick in that set. And the truth is that brick would fit perfectly with every other piece that's ever been produced in the world, everywhere from 1950 to present. And that takes a certain insane precision when building a brick. Lego is adamant that every brick, that any child should be able to press any 2 Lego bricks together and have a solid bind, but it also has to be weak enough that child can pull those 2 bricks together. This is a precision. The Lego machines, their margin of error is a precision of 0.005 of a millimeter. So I feel that those are 2 major factors in kind of what has seen Lego's success in the 50, 60, 70 odd years that it's been in existence. So I want to conclude with one more thing. I feel there's a lot of positive draws to Lego as a hobby. I think a big one of it is nostalgia, obviously. There's a draw of just working with the Lego bricks as an artistic medium, just because at the same time they're incredibly limiting. Everyone is square. Well, not everyone is square, but this square, rigid, structural form. But at the same time, there's an insane number of things that people do with them. It's incredibly expansive. But if there was one thing that I had to define as the best thing for me in the hobby, it would definitely be the people involved. There's just a certain something about Lego nerds. I think you have, in order to be really happy, you just kind of have to not think about what the rigors of society demand. That once you become an adult, you can't play with toys anymore. You can't play with Legos. I think those are the best kind of people, and you may call them eccentric, but I personally try and live my life kind of by a quote by somebody that I respect a lot, and I think a lot of people in this room probably share that respect. So, anyways, thank you very much.
Go to nerdnite.com to find a Nerd Night event near you, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for our latest presentation.